This is a little after Pride Month, but we wanted to talk about some more niche, less often recognized queer individuals throughout world history. Hello, and welcome back to Wanderfix. Today we have a presentation prepared by Nate about Philip I, Duke of Orleans, as well as William III of Orange. But before we get too deep into that, we're Wanderfixed. Every week we gather together and talk about various things, whether it be history or nerdy stuff, because we're just a bunch of nerds who love to learn fun stuff every week. So that way you don't have to learn alone. So before we get too deep into it, make sure to like and subscribe. But Nate, Philip and William, this is a little after Pride Month, but we wanted to talk about some more niche, less often recognized queer individuals throughout world history. Philip and William are both French, yes?
Okay, so Philip is French. William is Dutch, and he becomes the King of England.
Okay.
Okay.
So I want to give a little disclaimer. This is the book I saw a little late because I had to finish reading this book. Okay.
What is
It
this
is
book
Brother to the Sun King, Philip, Duke of Orleans, by Nancy Nicholas Barker. This came out in like 1989, and when she does her psychological analysis of the figures, she does use Freud heavily, which is outdated. So just keep also, since it came out in 1989, she just refers to anyone who is LGBTQ plus as homosexual. As we go through this, I don't think they are homosexual, more likely bisexual or pansexual. We'll get into that. But also fascinating insight into the French court.
But they are certainly confirmed queer in some manner.
So Philip, yes. William, suspected.
Okay.
Yeah, history remembers them as roommates, kind of thing.
Yeah. And we'll get into why, at least for William. I did do less research on him. It's more like we're about Philip featuring William because they fought each other in a war, and I thought it would be kind of fun to have
They were enemies.
Queer gentlemen that fought each other.
Yeah.
They were
So
enemies.
before we get too deep, the book, is it like it's just like a biography about their lives?
So it's a biography about Philip, Duke of Orleans. The author had access to all of the French and English records about him, which is primarily through letters written by those in the court of the Sun King, including his two wives, some written by him, and many other different figures throughout the court that wrote about his life, as well as financial records and other things.
So it is like transcripts and diaries and stuff like that of not only him, but all of his close friends and family.
Yeah, there's letters from his mom, Queen Anne, as well as Mazarine, who was her lover after her husband died, and, suspected lover. And writings from his brother, the Sun King, and such.
Well, I'm very excited to learn about this because I've never heard of this guy before.
I literally don't even know who the Sun King is. So is that in this as well? Because I'm so sorry, I don't know most of this.
Okay, so Louis XIV, the Sun King, built the Palace of Versailles and is considered essentially the greatest king in French history.
Okay. And why was he the Sun King?
Because he styled himself after Apollo. He wanted to be as brilliant as the sun.
Got it.
And wanted to control everything.
If you've ever been to Versailles, everything is covered in gold and mirrors, and it's just nothing but bright and flashy. So
yes,
may make sense for someone who wants to be viewed as the sun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
and in this case, Philip was essentially the Moon Prince, you could say. He, so we'll get into Philip. He's born at the September of 1640. Because he was the second child, he was never going to get the throne so long as Louis lives. Because Louis XIII is his dad. Louis XIII dies. That makes Louis XIV the heir apparent, and his mom the regent, and she works together with Mazarine, who I believe was a cardinal, and they raise Louis, and his mom loves Louis, absolutely adores him. Literally in the letters, it'll be like, my charming, adorable, handsome, brave son Louis. He is so amazing.
And then there's
And my
Philippe,
son,
who I hate. How do you say it, Philip? Who I hate.
Philip or Philippe, I guess you would
That,
say.
that's
It's like,
so
and
it's
my
like the
son
classic
Philippe.
Disney firstborn is the favorite, second one's kind of the spare.
Yeah. He'd sing
Yeah,
a song about
but
it. And then the
Yeah.
firstborn would actually sing a song about all the pressure on him as well. And then they'd
Yeah.
come together.
yeah, and so as the second son and the Duke of Orleans, his official title is Monsieur. So he is Monsieur and is referred to in most of the documents as Monsieur. I hope I'm pronouncing this even remotely right. My French is not great. So, and from all the letters, it does seem that the Queen, Anne, did treat Philippe more like a daughter and did refer to him in some of her letters as my little girl, which I found interesting. He was very often seen playing and hanging out more with women than men. Although in adolescence at this time period and like in your infancy, you usually spent the first 7 years wearing dresses and being raised by women, typically by a governess. And then after that, you would have your breeching, where you would be then given pants and would then be taken into the care of men to then be raised and learn like the ways of war as a noble.
I see. So did he wear
As all
dresses
men
even
made at one
after?
point.
Yeah. Did he wear dresses even after his breaching? Or
Yes.
okay. So he was very into more feminine styles and fashion.
Now, at this
Yes.
time, was this kind of thing accepted? Like,
I mean, if you're the prince, you can kind of get away with
no,
anything.
like
well, yes
okay,
and
yeah,
no, but also if you're the prince,
exactly.
you have a lot of eyes on you, right? So isn't that something
Yes.
that might
So
be more?
so France at this time is staunchly Catholic. They are very Catholic. But his mom took him to mass and regular religious ceremonies almost constantly throughout his life. And he would even do that up until the day of his death, though it does seem, according to letters and such, him and his brother Louis didn't really care much for religion. They just kind of kept up with the practices to look good in the eyes of the people, and because of tradition and like some affection for their mom. Now, the other thing to note is his Louis was given the best treatment, the best education. Philip was kind of given, he was put on the back burner. The people that would be appointed to teach him were always like late. They forgot to appoint them. It took longer. And so he spent more time in his adolescent, or like in his younger years, like as an infant and a young child, toddler and such, like up to like age 8, 9, 10, whatever, in the care of women, which was longer than normal. Not sure if that has any bearing on anything, but it is interesting to note that he did tend to spend more time with women, and that would continue throughout his entire life. He did prefer the company of women in terms of friendship.
Interesting.
Was placed under the care of Villeroy, who also was Louis' governor in 1651, but he didn't really start teaching Philip until 1653, and in 1657 he was still considered to be a feckless child, and so like he was prone to idle play, not really being that interested in affairs of state and different things, which could be partly due to the fact of, so in the middle it's called the Fronde. I need to talk about the Fronde real quick to
Okay.
explain some of this.
Who's this guy?
This is their uncle Gaston, the
He looks-
Duke of Orleans, before
Okay.
Philip. Yes, like the Disney villain.
That's what I was gonna say. Okay.
Yeah, this guy was the brother to their dad, Louis the 13th. Sorry, and there are two frondes. One is a rebellion of like the parliament and the people, and the other one is a rebellion of the nobility. And so this guy rebelled against the crown after his brother died. And they're in the Plaza Royale in Paris. They're under siege. Louis XIV is put into a little box and smuggled out on a carriage in the middle of the night. Philip's left behind in Paris. They did not care.
They really did care about Philip then.
No.
But Gaston, why did he rebel against the crown? Was it that he wanted to be next in line, or
kind
that
of
feels
like
like
wanted to
some-
be king? Some kind of like failures of the monarchy. People
he just in general wasn't happy with the situation that his brother left behind.
Yeah, wanted some more reforms, different things. And so, because of this rebellion, in the queen's mind, and Mazarine's and Louis develops this thing that we can never allow the brother of the king to gain enough power to rebel again.
Interesting. So
And
then that's probably part of the reason that they were so slow to teach Philip all the things that he would need to know to be king.
Yeah, they're like, if
yeah,
we keep him purposely a little stupid, he
Yeah.
won't be able to overpower me.
Well,
That's
not
so
even stupid,
mean.
but if we just like don't teach him all of the rules, then he's not gonna know how to play the game.
Well, they're not teaching
yes,
him like schooling stuff either, so it's like they're not
Yeah,
even.
yeah, that's fair.
and Mazarin would often distract Louis with gifts of art, jewels, and other things, where he actually got Philip really into art and art collecting and different things. And so anytime Philip would start to get a little ruffled, he would just gift him some new art, to calm him down.
And now, on a lot of these history, is this been written down? I know you've read this book, but how has this been documented?
Basically, they have thousands of letters from people that were in the court of Apollo, so Louis the Sun King's court, talking about this. Like, this was very public. Like, the way Louis essentially humiliated his brother to prevent him from ever having authority is very well documented, and everyone in the court knew what was going on.
And so, so like literally everyone was talking about like, hey, we want to keep Philip not ready to be king.
Yes, like they can't
Okay.
like fully prevent him from being educated, but
Yeah.
they could prevent him from having political office. They could prevent him from having a governorship, military service, different things. But the one thing to note is Louis XIV develops an aversion to Paris. He does not like it because of the events of the Fronde.
Yeah,
What?
that's totally justifiable.
But Philip was left behind, and they didn't hurt him. And the people of Paris actually came to love Philip.
That's
He would
nice.
He would be loved by Paris. He would be first in no one's heart, but the city of Paris would always hold him dear.
That's nice.
And
a sad sentence.
yeah. So one thing to note, also at one point, Louis does get sick, and he's like possibly gonna die, and they start realizing they've messed up, and Philip is the heir apparent, and he is not ready to be king. So they do kind of fix their ways a little bit at one point. There's also times where like Louis is sick and they just leave Philip, who's also sick, behind and really don't care about him, like put all their efforts into saving Louis.
That is,
so-
to be clear, that is like a really scumbag move and bad parenting. But looking at it from like a monarchy point of view, if the kid who is supposed to be king and you've put all of your eggs in your basket of them being king is sick, and the spare is also sick, you would want to save the first one first.
Yes. So just a little list of crimes the family we might be getting into. So we talked about him being left ill for them to go attend Louis. They neglected his education. So his first wife is the sister of Charles
first
II
wife?
of
Sorry.
England. Philip's first wife is Henriette, the sister to Charles II, King of England. She cheats on him with Louis.
Oh my goodness.
Oh. Well,
So
maybe it's not
that-
a bad thing, right? 'Cause lavender marriage.
Yeah.
well, they had children together, and Philip does state that at least for like the first 2 weeks of their marriage, he was genuinely happy and loved her.
Okay. That is.
But she was a notorious flirt and considered to be very beautiful and attractive, for the time being. But
What were the years?
did
I
not-
might have mentioned them
well-
at the beginning. What were these years? I'm just trying to.
Uh,
picture
so
where we are.
let's go back.
This is like mid 1600s.
So
1600s. Okay. So it's
1640
before-
is when when Philip is born, and he lives until like early 1700s. He lives
What-
to be in like his 60s.
So all of this was like well known amongst the French Parliament. It sounds like, because we have all this information from their letters. What was the like kind of social standard and expectation of a spouse cheating on you? Because I feel like
Yeah. Right.
there were a lot of
Isn't
like
that-
wives throughout history who were killed for a lot less.
Might be different in other countries, but the French are a bunch of whores. They are all sleeping with each other.
Okay, so
Every-
they were like,
Louis has
no one
Louis-
got hurt.
like Louis' scandal is he has mistresses all over the place. So many mistresses, and he has a bunch of bastard children.
Okay, so that it was just kind of par for the course of being a French noble.
Yes, but it was still like a humiliation to be cheated on.
Mm.
So
It did more to defame Philip than it did Henrietta.
yes, because also we're talking like the United political position when Louis XIV was doing negotiations with England as the like brother-in-law to the English king. Philip could expect to be involved in these negotiations. He was completely kept in the dark, and when he does learn about them, he is forcibly removed from any meetings about it, while his wife Henrietta is let in on all the details.
Oh my goodness.
They just really hated this guy.
Yeah, they prevented him from being like literally he was prevented from any like as a prince, as the Monsieur, he would be expected to have governorships and other such positions to learn more about ruling the kingdom. He was denied all of that.
So
He
this
wasn't
obviously
allowed
seems
anything.
more than is expected. Like we talked about how this might happen for the spare prince, right?
Yeah.
But this is obviously more than that. Was the reasoning because he might have been different, like more sexual wise,
I
or
I was
was
about
it
to
just
ask, is it
because?
because of like any unusual behavior? Like,
Yeah,
it sounded like he
So
was very not typical masculine identity at that time.
from what I can see, that doesn't really seem to be the problem. The problem is he's the brother to the king.
So they just care
These
more about
are
him not it's not that they don't like him because he's queer. They just don't like him because he's the second born.
Yes, and they use his queerness against him as
Okay.
ways to like humiliate him and say he's unfit for office, but that's more just an excuse. The main reason is he's the brother to the king, because if he was the king, it doesn't seem like anyone would have cared.
is there anything saying what Louis felt about this? Like, did Louis care about his brother?
Um it does seem that they did love each other, but they also kind of hated each other, and it was like a love-hate relationship. Like they love each other
Kind
because
of,
they're brothers, but
yeah.
Louis never wanted to be outshone by Philip ever.
Mm.
It's very Targaryen.
That's really,
And what were you gonna say, Eric?
I was just saying that's really sad for Philip, and I guess
Yeah.
Louis as well. But that's really sad that just the fact that he was born second kind of ruined his whole life.
Yeah, and like there are times when like their mother passes away. Philip is spending all of his time he can with his mom, also because he has nothing better to do. He's been denied any sort of position responsibilities or anything like that, and Louis has made him completely financially dependent on him. Like Philip, he gets all his money from Louis. Like because he's a prince, he gets a stipend from the crown to live
Yeah,
his
He
life.
was still a prince at the end of the day.
Yes,
Like he
that's true.
was
That's true.
probably
He
getting
still had
some
a
of these
really
things.
cushy life.
Yes, that's exactly what I was about to say. Is like he was still a prince. He did have dinner and food to eat. I'm assuming.
yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, no,
so
the dude
this
was
does suck.
fabulously wealthy. Dude was
Yeah.
fabulously wealthy. We're not like it's just kind of more like the expectations for what his rank is versus what he actually received.
Sure. Yeah.
So when his like mom dies, for example, because he has no like responsibilities per se, he would spend all his time with his mom in her last moments. She would show a lot of love to him, maybe even expressing some regret about what she'd done. But people would call him a mother's boy, like he's still clinging to his mother's skirts and stuff for that. Whereas Louis would spend time with her, but not nearly as much, because he was off
Yeah,
running the
guys,
kingdom.
loving your mother is lame. Your mother who does
Yeah,
everything for you is lame.
that's not alpha male behavior
Not
to
alpha,
to
beta,
to like your
beta.
mom.
Yeah,
So
and
silly.
so other things that would happen is like as he would like there'd be something like an appanage, which would be like territories and like income you would get from those territories and other things that you would be expected to get as a prince, including like the Duke of Orleans would be a title given to you and you get control of Orleans. A lot of these times when he would be given these by Louis, because that's how it worked, the king would give these to you as befitting your rank. Little parts of it would be like sold off to other nobility or other like princes of the blood, which would be like second cousins, third cousins, whatever. And so he would never get like the full territory or all the income that could come with it because they didn't want him to be independently wealthy in such a way that he could challenge the throne. And it
He
also
was given
seems like
just
they
enough.
had just
Yeah.
enough, a few $1 million, every year. And the also there's a kind of a psychological thing where they tried to instill a sense of loyalty in Philip to prevent him from ever rebelling against Louis.
Well, I've always
And
said a lot of people are like, I want to be king. I want to be king in these movies or like the Game of Thrones, which I mentioned earlier. They always want to be king. But to me, if I was in any of these situations, being the prince or the princess is a million times better. I feel like you get
Yeah.
all of the benefits without any of the negatives of like wanting to be assassinated or like having to make horrible, hard decisions. You know, you just get like all of the good stuff without
Yeah.
any of the bad.
and that also depends
Obviously,
entirely
making consent
on
here.
the monarchy and how they structure things. You know, maybe they actually do give princes responsibility. In this case, if you are Philip, you are living a constant life of humiliation because everything that's supposed to be given to you is denied you. But you also are like a millionaire with like multiple palaces and massive art collections and stuff.
Hey, maybe he was into being humiliated. We don't know. Maybe he
We
actually was
will.
like,
Okay,
people to do
we're
that.
gonna get to that. We're
Oh.
gonna
That's a
get to that.
topic. That's a whole slide of itself, apparently.
uh,
Oh no.
don't worry, we'll get there. So, Philip also had a love of fashion, and one thing I did note when reading this, there is a letter from one of the other like princes there that whenever Philip came to play with him, they would force him to dress up as a girl. Apparently, not sure why they forced the other guy to dress up as a girl, but they noted that they were forced into it whenever Philip came over, and Philip liked to be with women's and girls to dress them up. He knew more about the style of feminine dress than most women.
Is this photo of Philip right here?
This is a drawing, yeah.
Yeah,
Philip.
but that is Philip, and like
Yes, like and what we could consider something he might have worn. He was known to cover himself in ribbons, jewels. Like he talks about diamond encrusted pants at some point.
catch me at next year's Pride looking like that.
Yes, he was very fashionable, and his love of dressing up as a girl and his distaste for the his love of dressing up as a girl and his distaste for the activities normal in a young man of his age was something noted in one of the letters. Like he loved fashion and he loved doing hair and different things like that and makeup.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Now we're going to talk about his love interests and his wives. So he had two wives, okay?
Mhm.
Henrietta of England, sister of Charles II of England, and Elizabeth Charlotte, the Madame Palatine, also known as Lisolette, a German prince from the Palatine region.
Okay.
His
Did he marry Elizabeth after Henrietta cheated on him? Like, is that what?
no, Henrietta dies.
Oh,
To
Okay.
So wait, which one cheats? I'm so sorry.
Henrietta is the one who cheated.
Henrietta,
and then she
also for the
dies.
purposes of this slide, is one on the left. She cheats, has pretty good life, but she gets tuberculosis and dies. Although some believe she was poisoned by one of Philip's lovers.
Oh.
Now, because we'll get into this in a second, this is a preface. We're gonna get into the timeline here, okay?
Mhm.
So this is just first. Now we're gonna start with our turbulent love. We're gonna start with his first male lover, Gweech.
Okay.
And
Gweech?
Gweech
Okay,
is what
well,
I'm gonna
we're
call
probably
it.
pronouncing
That's
this
a
wrong,
gay
and
man.
a lot of these names
No,
wrong. So we have to...
it's Squeech, and that's a gay man.
Okay.
That-
I was just gonna say we're gonna need a lot of leniency with our pronunciations here.
And I am purposely trying to pronounce. I don't know how to pronounce this, so if I'm pronouncing this wrong, it's on purpose because this guy sucks.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So Gweech, this is directly from the book, from a letter. He's at a party. He found the Monsieur dressed up as a gypsy, is what they say in the letter written by the French nobility at this time.
So
And
already he's just using not nice language.
which I guess might not be the case in this time period, but
Yeah.
we'll say as a Roma woman for purposes going
Mhm.
forward. I just want to be clear this is how it was written in the text.
Yeah.
And he pulled Monsieur to the dance floor. Pushed him about roughly and kicked him several times in the rear. According to his first wife, Monsieur liked it.
Mhm.
So he's dressed as a woman. They're on the dance floor at a party because Philip was the preeminent party animal.
So
of
he
France.
was in drag. Gweech was in drag, pushing around Philip, and Philip was into that.
Yes, and kicking him in the butt, and he was into that.
That's
Now,
gay.
Um,
That's gay.
So the other.
Wait, it
so
says
one thing
that
to note.
Monsieur was dressed as a woman. Which one was dressed as a woman? I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand.
So,
Oh, wait,
so
no,
Philip,
yeah, Monsieur was
Philip
in drag.
is yeah. So Philip, his title is Monsieur. So in a lot of the text, they refer to him as Monsieur.
Yeah. So Philip was in drag.
Philip is in drag. Now, I want to note as well, Philip was a party animal, basically nonstop parties, and it was part of the way Louis also controlled the French nobility is nonstop
Mhm.
parties,
Yes.
and Philip was
Uh-huh.
kind of part of that. He was nonstop party animal all year long,
Let them eat
24/7.
cake.
Yeah.
Gambling. We'll also get to that as well. Gambling was a big favorite of his mom and him and Louis. Gambling all the time, parties, plays, theater, opera, everything. He's on top of fashion. He's on top of art. He's buying jewelry out the wazoo. He's hosting parties like a madman, and even letting the public get in on it. Like all of his
It's a little
palaces,
bit
like the
like
Plaza
Bohemian
Royale.
Rhapsody, if you ever seen that movie.
Yeah.
Possible. I haven't seen it, but yes, it was a rhapsody,
Just party.
and it was bohemian.
I guess so.
And yeah, and so he would have like all of his palaces he would build. And we'll talk about this. Would have giant parks that people could walk in and promenade in. They'd have massive feasts the public could partake in. Philip, though, would also like throw out gold to soldiers and people everywhere. Like he'd be riding his carriage through town, just tossing money out to people wherever he went. He was a party animal and loved by the people of Paris. But we'll get to the second part here. Guiche also looked. Both of Philip's lovers looked oddly a lot like his older brother. That's something they point out a lot in the text. That both of his lovers look a
Wow.
lot like his brother.
That's crazy. And they
And
emphasize that?
they emphasize this. Yes, his two primary male lovers look a lot like his brother. Guiche being one of them would also have an affair with one of Louis's mistresses, and then would try to drive a wedge between said mistress and Louis, which would get him exiled.
I feel
So
like
they're
I need
all
one of
bad.
those. Yeah, but I feel like I need one of those like flow charts that
I
they
know.
do
Yes.
for like Game of Thrones, like fandoms and stuff like that, where it's like
Uh-huh.
so and so is dating so and so, but also dating so and so, and they're cheating with each other, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just so
Like a Real
much.
Housewives
Ever
situation.
yeah, everyone's sleeping with everyone.
Yeah. So now we'll get to the Chevalier de Lorraine, also known as Philip, his other lover. So,
You know what? Sometimes you need some self love.
Are all of
yes,
the hair in these images, are they wigs? Or did they actually just have that bodacious, loving, amazing hair?
It's got to be wigs.
some were wigs, some might have been their actual hair. Most likely,
That's
most of it is
amazing
wigs.
hair if it's real. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. So this figure, some people speculate, never actually loved Philip, but just exploited his queerness to his own advantage to gain control of Philip's household.
just like
Mm.
Bohemian Rhapsody. That's so interesting. In Bohemian
So-
Rhapsody, it's the manager of the band who's kind of doing this exact thing, and is really like pulling him away from the band and doing all this evil stuff. It's really
Yeah.
interesting.
And so he would come to dominate the household, and this is the figure that people believed poisoned his first wife, Henriette. Unsubstantiated. But the reason people kind of believe this is because he was gaining so much control of the household, and her and Henriette were kind of in a constant feud for Philip's affection and control of the house. While she is negotiating with her brother, the King of England, to make a treaty between Louis and Charles, as part of this deal, she demands that this man be exiled. And so he actually ends up getting sent to Chateau d'If, a famous prison made famous by the book The Count of Monte Cristo, if you've ever read it. He would eventually return later, during the time when when Philip is with his second wife, Lisolette. They get married, and they're actually very happy for 6 years. Philip had a lot of kids with Henrietta, and also had a lot of kids with Lisolette. And they did seem to be genuinely happy, though Lisolette does express she didn't really have a desire to be married. She doesn't really want to be married or have kids. Seems she may have been asexual. Some people theorize she may have been lesbian. But her and Philip do seem to genuinely love each other for a time. And they have a lot of kids, and she describes Philip as the amazing, gentle, kind, amazing husband.
So
That's nice.
Philip is just causing all kinds of shit always. This Philip, not Monsieur Philip.
Yeah.
Philip Chevalier.
We'll call him the Chevalier for
Yes.
to keep it simple. Chevalier here. Basically, Louis eventually is trying to make some deals, get some marriages going
Yeah.
on. He's selling off children like you do back in the day. Philip's children,
Like you do.
super valuable to the monarchy. They're
Mhm.
the children of the second in line for the throne, or if Louis' line dies,
Yeah.
this is the next closest
It's a
line.
noble. it's just ways to get more alliances with other nobility.
Yeah. And so, and like at some point, Philip will make some deals with his brother to marry his kids to Louis's bastards because the bastards aren't good enough for any like good marriages. So they kind of like want to get them in the official royal line, you know?
Hmm.
And as part of some of these deals, they unexile the Chevalier de Lorraine. And then he comes back and kind of ruins their marriage.
Vengeance.
We're gonna get into
He's
what
an
he
evil
does.
gay.
We'll get into some more of this. So, but first, I want to talk because we're gonna take a little segue because during the happiest times of Philip's life, according to this book and many historians, seems to be the Franco-Dutch War in 1677. Okay, Philip at this point is 37 years of years of age. He's been out on some military campaigns before, but never really been allowed to do anything. But people have noted his bravery, his willingness to run into the trenches, his willingness to enter combat, and like he does seem to have a genuine love of military service.
So he's actually fighting.
Yeah.
He's not just like, general.
Because earlier you were
fighting.
saying that he had kind of been deprived military service, but it looks like eventually he was able to weasel his way in.
Yeah, so like they would take when he was younger, when he was like a child still, at some point they would actually start giving him some proper education and take him out to the battlefield. He wouldn't be allowed to fight, but they noticed that he did seem to have a love of being on the front line and really getting involved.
That's cool.
In the Franco-Dutch War, they give Philip a command and he does some sieges, nothing too crazy. At one point, they're facing William III of Orange. He's arrayed along with his brother and their armies to fight William. Nothing happens. Philip is sent off to another siege. And then the Battle of Cassel happens. Philip, off on this siege alone, is approached by the armies of William of Orange. He ignores the orders of Louis to just maintain the siege and instead arrays his armies to face William and defeats him in battle, which is something his brother didn't do ever. And during this time, people talk, he's like, his armor's covered in jewels, it's all fancy, but he's running into the front lines, he's rallying the troops,
Sweet.
he's killing people, he's getting involved, he's a hero to the French people. This will be the last time he's ever given a military command.
Is it because
He's
people get
never
mad at him for doing this?
People, yeah, basically Louis is like, my brother can't outshine me.
Yeah.
Louis is considered also to be a great practitioner of war, but he's way more cautious than Louis. He's much more methodical. He's not this man who's out in the front lines or anything. He can't let his brother be seen as a hero.
Interesting.
And though his brother would beg for military service for years.
If your uncle tried to, like stage a coup against you, I guess it makes sense to be very cautious. If your brother's showing military prowess, you don't want him to be like, oh, you can fight really well. I don't want people to know that.
And, Paris already loves Philip. You don't want everyone else starting to love this guy more than you as well.
Yeah.
So, we'll take a little segue here, because this is a great time. After we have the Battle of Cassel, he defeats William of Orange.
I love this subline, may be gay. In that photo, he's gay. Look at the way that he's like leaning away from her. Holy
He's so
shit.
disgusted by her.
He's so gay.
So
what do you mean maybe?
So this is the one thing though. According to the records, he marries Mary II, and they're married from 1689 to her death in 1694. There is talk that maybe at one point he may have had a mistress, but the general consensus seems to be that he never did. There's just one like rumor, and that they were completely devoted to each other. And they never had kids because she has a miscarriage, and then after that point doesn't seem to be able to have kids anymore. She dies. He never remarries. But there's a couple guys here that he brings with him over from the Netherlands when he becomes king that he just kind of shows a lot of favor to throughout his life, which is Hans William Betnik, who he gives the title the Earl of Portland, and Arnold Joost van Keppel, made Earl of Albemarle. And the thing is, because he also, one thing to note, this is the only time in English history where it is a joint monarchy. Like, it wasn't just one of them was ruling the country. Yeah. They ruled together, and they were like the only people to do that, him and his wife. Like, they ruled jointly. Yeah, so very power couple. Mm-hmm. The allegations about him having male lovers is kind of like when one of these two friends of his was sick. He nursed him back to health. He was by their bedside. He was taking care of them and stuff. And he seemed to like grant them more favors than others. Some people theorize that because he, was a Dutch nobility that became English, the English king, that some people were just trying to slander him.
Is it really so gay to nurse your homie back from death and spend the night alone with him? Is that really so gay?
Is it so bad to take care of the homies?
Exactly.
A little good night kiss.
Tuck them in at night, give them a little smooch. Is that so gay?
Gotta make sure they're doing fine.
So like the one thing is it's unclear because it's also possible this was just slander written by his opponents to try to defame him, humiliate him, or something.
So in England, because in France it sounded like people were kind of chill with Philip being queer. Like they didn't necessarily like it, but they didn't like want to stop that. But it sounds like in England that was very, very hard. We don't like that.
It also seems Philip embraced it and just kind of accepted the humiliation that may have come with it.
Okay.
So we're gonna talk a little bit
about Philip. That'd be a really fun one.
I was about to say I would love to see like a Bridgerton style show of all of these individuals.
And these party scenes would be really fun.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get into a bit of his legacy now. I don't want to cover everything because like this book isn't too long. It's on Amazon. If people really want to get into it, I think it's a fun read, even if it is a little outdated in some of the ways it handles stuff. I still think it's a fun read. So public records in terms of charity don't show Philip doing that many particular donations like the church or anything like that would be considered normal charitable donations. But as I stated earlier, when he had parties, he would lay out feasts for everyone else to get involved in and eat publicly for free. All of his parks were free to access for everybody. He would give freely money to soldiers and stuff, and like citizens whenever he felt like it. People always thought he wasn't very good at finance, but he was a gambler, avid collector of art and jewelry. And it seems he actually, through some very smart financial decisions, such as building canals to connect the forest of Orleans, its mother forest, to Paris to allow the transaction of firewood to Paris, actually became fabulously wealthy and set up his entire lineage for success.
Wow.
To get financially independent of the throne. So people thought he was kind of just a flamboyant gambler, a wastrel who just was a drunkard and such.
Yeah.
But it seems he had a little bit more going on. He also had a crazy collection of jewelry, and his palace of St. Cloud that would be gifted to him later, that he would renovate along with the Plaza Royale, would become incredibly popular, with St. Cloud being considered by some people to be more beautiful than Versailles itself. The sad part about it is the Franco-Prussian War would do some damage to it, and later the Bonapartes, i.e. Napoleon, would occupy St. Cloud as their palace of choice, which people ended up hating Bonaparte and kind of burned the place to the ground because of that association to Bonaparte.
That's really sad.
So the only thing we have left of it is this fountain you see in this painting here. That fountain still exists, but the rest of it isn't existent. And some of his descendants sold off most of his jewelry and paintings and such.
So most of his art collection has kind of been just lost to history.
Yeah, so a lot of the physical manifestations of his success are lost.
That's really sad.
But
because that's really frustrating that he spent like so much time and energy making like his personal collection, his personal home, separating himself from the throne, and that just because history happened, we don't have access to that.
But he would also kind of get the last laugh. So the Bourbon line of the French family, which is his brother's line, dies out. His line, the line of Orleans, lives on. His descendants
to this day
from his marriage to his descendants.
It sounds like he had a lot of kids.
Yeah.
So like he actually had a lot of kids, and his kids were actually put into very prodigious and beneficial positions for the French monarchy in terms of their marriages. And we'll just talk about some of them. His descendants would go on to be people such as Philippe II, the regent of France. That would be his oldest son. Marie Antoinette is one of his descendants. Louis XV, also one of his descendants. Joseph II, Holy Roman Emperor. Louis Philippe I, the last king of France, one of his descendants. Marie Louise of Austria, the wife of Napoleon, one of his descendants.
That's
Uh,
insane.
they would be members of the House of the Habsburg-Lorraine, the Spanish and Belgium royal houses, the Dukes of Luxembourg, the Duke of Savoy, and the King of Sicily and Sardinia. Like, his descendants got it done. All because, in theory, because of what Philip did in his life to prepare his descendants for success.
That's really cool.
And in terms of like as well, he would end up dying at around like 60 years of age. Him and his second wife, Lisolette, would end up kind of like becoming roommates in a way, and Philip would spend much of his time with the Chevalier after he was brought back from exile. But they did kind of become friends and have a cordial relationship towards the end of their days.
Yeah,
and
nice.
He would end up. So the book makes mention of this. Basically, both of him and his second wife had a very large love of food. She was not considered to be the most attractive. She actually would have a cordial relationship with his brother Louis XIV because her and Louis both really love to hunt. She, as the book describes her, as a tomboy. She's out hunting, doing all sorts of physical activities and stuff. Not as much of a partier as the first wife was, which Philip likes because she's not flirting with people. Like, he's not afraid of her cheating on him or anything. And they have a great 6 years until the Chevalier comes back, and then Philip's the one who kind of like gets together the Chevalier a bunch, and they kind of get separated. They would both end up getting fat and happy, eating a lot of food, and he would die of like apocalypse or like some other thing like that.
That sounds like the French aristocrat life to me.
Yeah.
And the Chevalier of Lorraine would be with him until the end of his days, and him and Lisolette would end up having like a pretty cordial relationship and be good friends by the end of it. Though they did have a lot of spats, especially about the marriages of their children.
So he was prince forever. He never like kind of became king or
nope.
Above.
He died before Louis. But through some savvy decision making on his part and maybe that of his advisors, it could have been more them than him. But people believe it could go either way. But through some savvy decision making on his part, his descendants would end up, having the last laugh.
That's really cool. It's also really nice that he got to have a good marriage, and then possibly, wasn't as respectful to Lisolette as he should have been. But it sounds like eventually everyone was on good standings, which is really nice.
Yeah, and I believe, he was most likely bisexual, because it does seem he did have some love for, like, some true love for his wife, and they did have some really good years together. She never really liked having sex, so she actually, like, in one of the letters, I believe in this book, it talks about, she was like, I'm okay that we're in separate rooms now. I hate having sex.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Ace Queen, hell yeah.
Yeah.
So the only thing she really didn't like is she didn't like that the Chevalier was taking all of Philip's attention. Like, she didn't really seem interested in sex, but she did genuinely enjoy Philip's companionship.
Okay.
So,
polycule.
Now, one more thing. You mentioned this before. On the book that you read, does it include the letters, or is it mostly like a retelling? Does that make sense?
So it'll include quotes from the letters, and it has a thing like the bibliography goes like chapter by chapter, telling you exactly which letters are being used for each section.
Okay.
And it's very extensive. It's like 100 pages just talking about like the letters that are all being used or something, it feels like.
Nice.
Because they had the author of this, if I can find it here in the beginning, talks about how she was given access to like the entire French archive. Like, they originally started off just doing a history of the House of Orleans, and then got so enamored with Philip that she just started looking up everything and got in contact with like the English royal archives, the French royal archives, like every royal archive she could, to find all the letters pertaining to him to write this book.
So are there then public copies of these letters that are accessible, or are the only copies in the archives?
Probably, like, it could be one of those things where, like, if you go and look up the archive, you can go through the letters and find them and read them yourselves.
Okay. That's cool.
And so, at least after the marriage to Lisolette, a lot of the information we get is her letters to her aunt, and that's how we're getting a lot of our information about Philip, is her letters to her aunt and other people. She wrote a lot.
Okay.
Well, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I'll just do a little tiny thing about the legacy of the William of Orange here. So, Glorious Revolution, he kind of usurped the throne a little bit in England, and it was relatively bloodless because he worked with Parliament to do it. Him and his wife instituted a Bill of Rights to give more basic civil rights and limit royal power and give more power to Parliament. and it seems to be like considered an essential step in the creation of their constitutional democracy that would eventually be established. And very Protestant, him and Mary. They made sure that everyone was moral and reformed the church and make sure a Catholic could never be king.
Nice. Well, I say nice, but also was that kind of in line with like the Church of England, kind of perpetuating that, or?
This seems to be more about like Protestants versus Catholics than anything.
Oh, okay.
And then just a little page here on in media. So Philip I, Duke of Orleans, can be found in such things in media as Charles II, The Power and the Passion, a little mini-series. Another mini-series, Versailles, a little mini-series about the court of the Sun King. The top right here has Philip the Chevalier de Lorraine in that series. Philip with the black hair, the Chevalier with the blonde hair and the mustache. Another little movie produced by Alan Rickman, A Little Chaos, about Versailles. A show called Vatel, the play Le Roi Soleil, and more. William of Orange can be found in a book by Alexandre Dumas called The Black Tulip, which is the same guy who wrote The Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh.
And you're going to find films and TV such as Michel de Routier, Charles II, Power and the Passion. So if you watch that, you can get him and Philip in the same thing. He also makes an appearance in Versailles. That's the second from the right image, the shorter-haired man with blonde in the red jacket. The League of Gentlemen's Apocalypse, and more. The play is still in production today, and the second from the left, short-haired man that looks very modern, is who plays Philip in that play in the most recent production.
That's cool. And so you had mentioned that these, both Philip and William didn't have like a lot of overlap, but people suspected that they may have interacted with each other romantically or sexually. What?
That's just for me. I don't.
That's a headcanon.
That's a headcanon that, or I need someone to make a fan fiction about this.
I mean, yeah, they were both around at the same time, and would they not have both been like fighting in wars around the same time?
Yeah, they fought each other in war, and then there was other conflicts that go on where William is fighting against like Louis and stuff, but Louis never gave Philip any more command. He could come as a volunteer or as an observer, but he was never given military command again.
I need heated rivalry, but it's Philip and William. That's what I need.
Yes, and I need this fabulous French fashion on full display. You just want a fun read about the life of Philip, or you just want a little more insight of the French court. Great book. I think Philip had the potential to probably be a great asset to Louis because the book states
it sounds like
he was never going to betray him.
Yeah, it sounds like he was relatively a pretty good guy. Like the worst offenses, at least from what I heard today, is just that he cheated on his spouse a little bit, which apparently was normal at the time. So it sounds like he would have been a really good ruler, or at the very least advisor.
Yeah, like he was known to have a bit of a temperament and such, but like there's many ways like he could have been an asset to Louis. Because it's just one of those sad facts of history that because he was born the second brother, the second born, he was ostracized and seen as a threat his entire life. And that seems to be much of what his gripes were and why there's much anger and resentment. Because he was tired of being humiliated and he just wanted to do something of value rather than just sit around the palace hosting parties all the time.
Yeah.
He still had fun with that. He loved opera, he loved plays, he loved music and art, but he didn't want to, he felt wasted, essentially. He wanted to show off what he could do.
He had so much potential. And we saw it in one battle, and then it was taken away.
Yep. So, that's Philip, a bit of a tragic character. We featured William just because my need is a heated rivalry about him and William, essentially.
William is Ilya and Philip is Shane.
And also, I'm a big fat lover of this time period. Also, Chad, if you do end up watching Versailles, I would love to hear Lexi's take on the outfits.
Yeah, I know. I was actually thinking about that because Lexi loves these costumes. My wife, Lexi, is a costume designer, so she knows a lot about this era, and I think it'd be really fun to maybe even watch it and do a video on that topic.
I was about to say maybe we should do a follow-up.
Yeah.
watch Versailles and review it, talk about the fashion, talk about the depiction of Philip and Louis and all the other individuals. Let us know if you guys would be interested in that, because
Also, fun fact.
I'm planning on watching Versailles on my own. So
Fun fact: Versailles has no bathrooms, so I wonder if that'll be in the show.
What do you mean? Like they just
the Palace of
The
Versailles.
the palace itself has no bathrooms.
They have an entire hallway dedicated to mirrors, but they have no bathrooms.
Yep.
Wow, if that
So they
doesn't
got their
say
priorities
pompous.
right.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
that doesn't say full of yourself. That's very impressive.
Yeah.
Also, like if you get into it, like there's rituals where Louis would have like, oh, you, sir, have the honor of watching me go to bed tonight. You have the honor of watching me wake up. You have the honor of watching me dine today.
You get to watch me be king. Isn't that so lucky?
Yeah, a real honor. You get to watch me with my mistresses.
It
Yeah.
is. I mean,
Of which
as
there
much
are
as,
many.
You know, he's a tragic character. It also makes sense why maybe the people revolted in a couple of
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, basically, like Philip, tragic character. Louis's whole idea of power was make the entire nobility entirely dependent on me for their finances, for everything. They live with me. I pay all their salaries. They are completely useless. And then, you know, a few years later, you don't have quite as competent a king that's able to keep everything under control, and it all falls apart.
Well, thank you so much, Nate, for this wonderful presentation. Again, like, we aren't professional historians, so it's possible that we misinterpreted some of the details. But it's really cool to see queer figures in history, especially this far back, because a lot of people, you know, say that part of the argument that being gay is unnatural is that, you know, it didn't show up until just 20 years ago. But these individuals have been around since the beginning of humanity. You know, you go back to Philip, you go back even further to ancient Greece and ancient Rome. There has always been queer people and just living their queer lives. And so that's really cool to see someone like this who was able to live out some of their queerness a little more publicly.
That's actually a really good point. Also, is the fact that it was so public, right? They were able to do it publicly. Whereas I don't know, like I feel like in other situations this would be an even harder situation. Obviously, he was humiliated and different things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and like
kinda
at least in the
owned it,
case
which
of
is cool.
Philip, he was able to do it because of his position in the royal family.
Yes.
Same with like Caesar, he was able to do it because he was Caesar. Like it seems like it was only really accepted in much of history if you were powerful enough for it to not affect you.
Yeah.
So there's
Which-
probably many more people we never heard about because they just didn't have the power to be public with it. Like Caesar, we all know, in Rome, it's only cool if you're the top.
It's true. He had a bunch of twinks.
Yep.
A bunch of twinks that were bottoms for him.
Yeah. And so like it's different there all the time, but they existed. They were here. They were living their lives, you know? And I think Philip's a really cool guy. Like one of the reviews of this book was from an LGBTQ plus historian whose name I forget, that he said like, yes, there are some problems with this book, but he puts it as a must read for anyone who's interested in that queer history.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. Thank you, Nate. Are there any queer people in history that you guys are aware of that we should talk about, or that you've heard of that are interesting? Because I know that there are a lot, but I don't know many of them by name.
Well,
Especially,
I
you
before
know,
this video,
Yeah.
before filming this right now, I didn't know who Philip was. And so comment if there are, because I would love to learn more about him. I think it's so interesting.
Let us know. Like we always want to learn more, and we'd love to learn with you guys. If there's anything you want us to learn about, let us know. We'll learn about it. We'll give you our thoughts, and we'd love to do that. Thank you all for being here. Happy Pride Month. Sorry we're getting this out right at the end.
it'll probably get out beginning of July, so either late
July
Pride
is now
or
Pride
or
Month
super
as well.
super early. Yeah, no, we are extending it by a week.
Extending it by a week. Yeah, sorry about that.
All right,
All
thank you
right.
guys so much. See you next time.
See ya.
See ya.